Many people today may not know about Buddy Holly due to his short music career in the 1950s. Buddy Holly had just become a household name with his rock and roll, rockabilly pop, and country music styles. He tragically died in a plane crash on February 3rd, 1959. Buddy Holly decided to take a charter plane to his next show in North Dakota after spending a week on the tour bus. Accompanying him on the plane were Big Bopper and Richie Valens. While conditions were fine at takeoff, pilot Roger Peterson was not warned about the two weather advisories for an incoming blizzard. The plane crashed in Clear Lake, Iowa around 1 a.m., killing everyone on board. On top of his own work changing the music industry, Buddy Holly's influence onto other artists changed the music world forever. As mentioned before, Buddy Holly's personal music career was not very long. His career got the break he needed after he opened up for Elvis Presley multiple times in 1955. Opening for Elvis changed his view on music. One of his band members at the time said, "We played country music, but when Elvis came along, Buddy fell in love with him and we began to change. The next day, we became Elvis clones." The following year, 1956, Buddy Holly signed his first label deal with Decca Records. An agent named Eddie Crandall noticed him and liked what he heard after seeing him open for Bill Haley in the Comets. But his deal with Decca fizzled out just 1 year later after a year of no hits. On February 25th, 1957, he recorded his first big hit, "That'll Be the Day," with future manager Norman Petty. Following his first hit, over the next couple of years, Buddy Holly was able to put out more hits, but it wasn't until after his death that his music saw success it never had. According to Claire Sudeth of Time magazine, his last single he put out, "It Doesn't Matter Anymore," saw sluggish sales upon release. But the day after he died, it jumped up to number 13 on the charts. After he died, his old label Decca put a greatest hits album together, and this album floated on and off the charts for the next 7 years. Along with his music's post-death success, in Britain, they couldn't make records fast enough to keep up with people buying them. His music shot up the charts. Buddy Holly is credited as one of the forefathers for the British invasion that would hit the U.S. 5 years later. Soon after Buddy Holly's death, many songs came out in his remembrance. An article from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame says the first was recorded just 1 day after his death by Eddie Cochran. But the most popular song was Don McLean's "American Pie." In the song, McLean refers to that fateful February day as the day the music died. Buddy Holly's influence carried many years after he passed. One popular group that Buddy Holly had a big influence on were the Beatles. Buddy Holly's band, the Crickets, was the inspiration for the name of the Beatles. Another way he influenced the Beatles was by how he inspired John Lennon and Paul McCartney. Both of these artists were inspired by Holly's ability to sing while playing the guitar, so they went and learned how to themselves. John Lennon said, "Buddy Holly was the first one that we were really aware of in England who could play and sing at the same time. Not just strum, but actually play the licks." On top of playing and singing, Buddy also inspired the Beatles to write their own music. Back in their time, not many people wrote and performed their own music. Although the Beatles wrote their own music, they still performed over 13 covers of Buddy Holly songs in concert. As well as the Beatles, Buddy Holly also inspired Waylon Jennings. Waylon Jennings and Buddy Holly were good friends. Buddy hired Waylon and Richie Valens to accompany him during his winter tour. Waylon always said Buddy was like a big brother to him, and he looked up to him greatly. Waylon was supposed to be on the plane with Buddy when it went down, but he gave his seat to Big Bopper, who had been fighting an illness. Before they took off, Buddy joked with Waylon, saying he hopes that the tour bus breaks down again and that Waylon freezes. And Waylon, joking back, said, "I hope that their plane crashes." For years, Waylon blamed himself for the crash. But Waylon went on and had a very successful music career, inspired by Buddy. Waylon Jennings is now in the Country Music Hall of Fame. Other groups and artists who have been inspired by Buddy Holly include Guns N' Roses and the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones' first single released in the U.S. was a cover of Buddy Holly's "Not Fade Away." In conclusion, despite Buddy Holly's short career, he did more than many ever have for the music industry, from opening for Elvis Presley to inspiring artists like the Beatles and Waylon Jennings. I never listened to much of Buddy Holly's music before I researched him. but afterwards, I thought it was very cool and interesting to learn about the huge impact he had on music during his time, and even up to modern day music. Despite his tragically short career, I think Buddy Holly fully deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame due to how he shaped rock and roll, because even though he himself didn't live very long, his music and legacy will never die.